came out here this morning to take a walk and enjoy the day at Shelter Island. I've been thinking about the school shooting that just happened the other day. Not because of anything specific to that school shooting, but more specific to the mentality we have in our country. There was a time when, particularly in the West, people had a frontier spirit where they took responsibility for themselves and expected that others were going to do the same. And they would come together as a community and take care of the community. And, you know, ever since we've talked about it on Practical Defense Systems on a podcast that I do with Dave Weiner and Scott Walker, about the fact that we're too dependent upon government to do things. And I was thinking about that tragedy because if we had a frontier spirit and we had been raised with that spirit, then chances are half or better of the school teachers and school staff would have been armed. In some states that's the case. Don't know about there. Certainly where I am in California, that is not the case. Should be, but it isn't. Because without that frontier spirit, what you're reduced to is one school resource officer whose job it is to rush all the way across the campus. High school campuses can be quite large, and figure out where the shooting is happening and go deal with the shooter. Well, at the time it takes for that one resource officer, and typically it is only one, that one school resource officer or security officer to run across the campus to get to where the shooting is, many people are dead or injured. Whereas if the staff were trained and armed, pretty much anywhere that shooter would go, the shooter's going to run into an armed person or several armed trained people. That's the frontier spirit I'm referring to. For example, I'm walking here at Shelter Island. When I was over there at the Valley High, I walked from one end to the other. A couple of police officers pulled up and met each other, two different vehicles, to go have lunch at the Valley High. And I thought to myself, I don't really need those guys. I'm grateful for them, but if somebody goes to hurt me, I am 911. I don't need to call them. I'll call them afterwards because of that, I guess, self-sufficiency that comes with a frontier mindset and a frontier spirit. I really think we need to get back to that as a country. Now, I know that many people, individuals do, some groups do. I'm very encouraged to see militias form in certain states that are citizen militias where they come together and they practice and they know their equipment and they know how to work as a team. I would imagine that at least some of those folks are veterans, some probably combat veterans where they're training up their local citizen militia to protect and defend the local community. Now, if I were a young man and that were available to me, I might actually sign up for that, even though I don't have any military history. I don't know what I'm doing. I just have to show up and say, okay, guys, I don't know what I'm doing. If you assume that I know nothing and go from there, you're probably right. So if you want to train me up, if you can do it from the ground up, that'd be great. Now, if it were something I could do here locally, I would probably join, but I would have to join as a support person because I'm old. You know, I'm too old to be running around and diving for cover and that kind of stuff. But I would be happy to serve in a group like that as a, you know, cook, a support guy, truck driver, whatever I could do to support the folks who would defend my community. I look at it much like you would look at a volunteer fire department in a smaller town or a smaller community. I think a volunteer security department is a good thing, and plenty of people would volunteer for that, except that as a country we've lost our frontier spirit. So I wanted to throw that out to you just because I thought it was worth thinking about and mentioning, And I'm wondering, frankly, what your thoughts are on that. And so, mull it over a little bit, if you don't mind my suggesting that. Think about it, how it might apply where you live, and how it might apply with you and your local community. Now, I know how it applies with me individually, because I have that spirit. My wife has that spirit. That's why we do so much gardening. That's why we're very prepared for things, not because we're worried about them, but because it's just sort of in our DNA to do that. We have that frontier mindset. My wife is very much, was very much a fan of the TV show Little House on the Prairie, and her mindset is somewhere along the lines of the Little House on the Prairie, where they're growing their own food and canning and doing things like that and preparing and taking care of themselves all the time, not just from the standpoint of preparing for the zombie apocalypse or some stupid thing, but just have a frontier mindset. That's all. And she has that mindset, and I'm grateful. So I'm curious what your mindset is, what you think about this, and in any case, leave me some comments in the description. I'd love to know.